Hello everyone, welcome to Mobile Class Academy. Back to school prep class day 4. On day 1, we look at factorization method. Under the factorization, we look at when the value of a equals 1. Our quadratic equation is of the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. Right? On day 1, we look at when this value is 1. So we'll work on different scenarios. We'll solve different examples to make sure that you understand how to factorize when the value of our a is 1. On day 2, what do? We look at when the value of our a, ax squared plus bx plus c, when this value is greater than 1. How do we factorize that equation? So we walk through different examples on how to factorize our quadratic equation when the value of our a is greater than 1. So that's what we did throughout day 2, and it was awesome. I'm sure you will not like to miss that class. It was awesome. So peradventure you've mixed it, don't you worry, because I will tell you what to do to get the class. Now on day 3, what do? We learn about difference of two squares, and we learn about perfect squares. This is our focus for day 3. We solve problem of difference of two square and perfect squares. We work on different examples under difference of two square and perfect square, and that class is something you don't want to miss. Honestly, you don't want to miss that class. So if you've missed day 1, day 2, day 3, this is day 4. Go to YouTube, search for Mobile Class Academy. Go to our Facebook page. Those classes are there. You will see them there. So you'll be able to catch up with, what you've mixed. Today is day 4. And what are we looking at? Today we just want to equate our factorization method to 0. And we are going to solve lots of problems or walk through some examples to understand our factorization method when the value of our a x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. All this while we've not been equating quadratic equation to 0, but this time around we are going to equate c to 0 so that we can get the value of our x, the x here and the x here. So this class, I want you to listen attentively because I'll be working with different examples and I don't want you to be lost during the session. So get your pen and jotter, look for a quiet place to sit, and let's start the class. Now, let's go to our first example today. Example 1 is factorize x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals 0. The difference between what we've been doing so far is this equal sign. We've not been equating our factorization equation to 0, but this time around we are doing that. So solution, we have our x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals 0. The one we said, if the value of our ax squared is 1, that we need to factorize and get the value for b and get the value for c. So we need to get two values that when added will give us our b, and when multiplied will give us our c. So now we are looking for our b. So what is our b? I told us that whenever we are looking for the two values, we turn to this c. This is a, this is b, and this is c. Now, if we are looking for the two values to replace our b, we come to c and we divide it. Now we have our 12 here. What are the products of 12? Let's start with 3. 3 goes in 12. We are left with 4. So 4 times 3 is what? Is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 plus 3 is what? 7. So our b is 7 in value if we check here, and our c is 12. So this is the perfect replacement for our b. This is what? Perfect replacement for our b. Now let's clear the board and substitute the value gotten for our b. Let's clear the board and substitute for our b. The values to substitute for our b are 4 and 3, right? Now let's impute them here. X squared plus 4x plus 3x plus 12 equals 0. don't forget we are equating our values to 0. So at this point, what do? We are going to group. So what's the common factor between x squared and 4x? Is x. So we put that one outside. We are left with x plus 4. Remember, if we multiply everything in this bracket with this x, it's going to give us what we have up here. Are you with me? Now, what is the common factor here? The common factor between 3x and plus 12 is just 3 plus 3. So we put that outside. If we take 3 from 3x, we are left with x. If we take 3 from 3x, we are left with x. Now, 12 divided by 3 is going to give 4. 12 divided by 3, 3 goes here 1, 3 goes here 4. So we are left with what? 4. So we write the plus 4 here equals 0. Now, we group together what we have outside the bracket, which are x plus 3. Because we have the same value here and here, we take just 1. So we have x plus 4. Everything equals to 0. So our x plus 3 equals 0, or x plus 4 equals 0. So we want to know the value of our x. Therefore, we want our x to stand alone. So from here now, we are going to transfer this 3 to this side. So it's going to cross the equal sign. If we do that, what are we going to get? We are going to get our x to equals minus 3. You know, once a value crosses the equal sign, the sign changes. So now we have plus 3 over here. When it crosses to this side, it changes to negative. And when our plus 4 crosses to this side, it changes to what? It changes to negative. So our plus 4 will turn to minus 4, or x equals minus 4. These are the values gotten after we factorize this equation that equals to 0. So this is what we are going to get if we factorize our equation when it's equals to 0. Are you with me? Now let's go to example 2. Example 2. Factorize x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. Remember, we are equating this equation to 0. Before now, we've not been equating. So under this factorization method, we are equating it to 0. So what is our solution? Solution, let's write the equation again. X squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. Here, we need to get two values to replace our b. This is a, this is b, this is c. So what are the two values that will replace our b? We are looking for two values that when we multiply is going to give us 2. When we add, is going to give us 3. By this time, we should know how to do this even without going to the board or doing rough calculation. We know that 2 times 1 will give us 2. Then 2 plus 1 will give us 3. So straight away, let's do 2 and 3. 2 plus 1 will give us plus 3. 2 times 1 will give us plus 2. So let's just put it. We have x squared plus 2x plus x plus 2 equals what? 0. Don't forget, always equate your equation to 0. Now, what do we do? From here now, we group this equation. We group this equation. So if we group this, what is a common factor here? The common factor is x. So we put that outside the bracket. We are left with x plus 2, right? We close the bracket. What's the common factor here? It's plus 1, because 1 times everything here is going to give us the same value. So we put plus 1 outside. Then we have our x plus 2 equals 0. So everything outside the bracket, we put them in a group. That's x plus 1. We have two brackets with the same values. So x plus 2, we just pick one. X plus 2 equals 0. So by now, we should know that our x plus 1 equals 0, or our x plus 2 equals 0. So if we have this, what are we going to do? We want the x to stand alone. Every value attached to this x will be transferred to the 0 side. After the equal sign will be transferred to this side. So we have x plus 1. If we transfer it to make x to stand alone, we have our x to equals to minus 1. On this side, we want our x to stand alone. Therefore, we are going to transfer this 2 to the other side. If we do that, we are going to have x equals minus 2. Therefore, x equals minus 1 or x equals minus 2. X equals minus 2. So that is the solution to this equation we have up here. This two equation looks simple. Let's look for something a bit tasking. Let's do our example 3. What is our example 3? Our example 3 is 8x squared equals 10x minus 3. 8x squared equals 10x minus 3. How do we do that? We solve. So solution, let's write our equation again. 8x squared equals 10x minus 3. When you look at this equation, we see that it's not properly arranged. We are working with our quadratic equation and we equate it to 0. But when you look at this, it's 8x squared equated to 10x minus 3. Therefore, we need to arrange. Let's arrange this equation. We have 8x squared. When this 10 crosses the equal sign, it becomes negative. So we have 10x. When this minus 3 crosses the equal sign, it becomes plus 3. Right? Then we have equals to 0. So this is the right equation. From here, what do we do? Remember, in D2, whenever we have the value of our a greater than 1, what do we do? When this a is greater than 1, what do? We multiply a with what? With c. And we get that as our new c. When the value of our a is greater than 1, we multiply a with c. Remember? So if you've mixed that class, go to our YouTube channel, Mobile Class Academy, you will see it there. So I'm going to do my AC. If I do my AC, it's going to give me 8 times 3, which is 24. Now I've gotten 24. I need two values that when added will give me what? Will give me minus 10. When multiplied, it give me 24. So what are the two values? I said whenever we don't know the two values, we should turn to what? We should turn to our AC. When we don't know the value, we should just divide our AC, right? And what is our AC here? Our AC is 24. So what are the two products of 24 that when added we give 10, when multiplied it gives 24. So we have a replacement for our minus 10x, which are minus 6 and minus 4. What we need to do is to substitute them here. So if we do that, we have 8x squared minus 4x minus 6x plus 3 equals 0. So what are we going to do? We group them into 2. So let's come to the first bracket. What is a common factor here? The common factor here is what? 4x. So we have 8x squared over 4x. X goes here. This is x in two places. We take out 1. So we are left with x. 4 goes here 1. 4 goes here 2. So we are left with 2x, right? Do we have left here? It's just minus 1. Minus 1 times 4x will give minus 4x, right? So on this side, on the second side, what do we have in common? We have minus 3 as a common factor. So if we take out to minus 3 from here, what do we have? We'll be left with 2x. Minus 3 times 2x will give minus 6x. So if we take out minus 3 from here, what do we have? We just have 1. So when we check what we have here and what we have here is the same, that shows we're on the right track. Don't forget we are equating everything to 0. Now we have 4x outside the brackets and minus 3. So we group them together. Then we come here to check the value inside the bracket. They are the same, the first bracket and the second bracket. So we pick just one, and that is 2x minus 1 equals 0. Now at this point, what are we going to do? We are going to do 4x minus 3 equals 0, or 2x minus 1 equals 0. We want the x to stand alone. So what are we going to do? First, let's transfer the 3 to the other side. We have 4x equals, when minus 3 crosses this equals sign, it becomes 3, positive 3, right? Now, our 2x we equals to what? This minus 1 will cross the equal sign, it becomes 1. Now, we want the x to stand alone. What are we going to do? We are going to divide everything by 4 because the 4 is disturbing the x. So on this side also we are going to do 3 divided by 4. 4 goes there 1, 4 goes there 1. So our x new value is 3 over 4. Or we want the x to stand alone here, so we divide through by 2. So we have 2x divided by 2 equals 1 over 2. You know what we do to the left hand side, we do to the right hand side. So 2 goes here 1, 2 goes here 1. So our x can stand alone and it will give us 1 over 2. So x equals 3 over 4 or x equals 1 over 2. So this is our answer for this equation or this question. Now let's go to another example. We are trying to solve as many examples as possible because we want you to have in-depth knowledge of this topic so that anytime you come across any quadratic equation, you will be in a position to solve it, even without reason to, to consult your textbook or to come back to the class. So that's why we want to walk you through as many examples as possible so that you are well, informed about the topic. Now let's look at example 4. 2x minus 3 bracket 2x minus 3 raised to the power of 2 equals x squared. In day 3, we talk about perfect square. So this is example of perfect square. We need to resolve this, then equate it to this, and later equate it to 0. But let's solve the perfect square together. You remember how we solve it? Whenever we have, solution, bracket 2x minus 3 raised to the power of 2. How do we solve that? This is our first term, this is our second term. And what we learned on day 3 is square your first term. That is 2x squared. Because of this negative sign, we introduce the negative sign. Twice the product of your first term and second term. That is 2 times 2x times 3. Then plus the square of this second term. That is 3 squared. Let's break this down. 2 raised to the power 2 is 4. X raised to the power 2 is x squared, right? Minus 2 times 2x is minus 4x times 3. That's minus 12x, right? Then 3 raised to the power 2 is what? Is 9. Let's bring down this side. And we have equals x squared. Is that understood? Now, let's rearrange. We have 4x squared. Let's bring this x squared inside. Let's bring x squared inside. We have minus x squared minus 12x plus 9 equals 0. So from here now we have 4x squared minus x squared. That will give us 3x squared minus 12x plus 9 equals 0. From here we can solve this equation like our normal factorization. You know that the value of a here is greater than 1. Therefore, we are going to multiply it with what? With our c. This is our a, b, c. So if we do that, our AC will give us 27, right? So what are the two values that when we had, will give us minus 12. When we multiply, we give us what? We give us 27. If you want to work it out, fine. If you don't want to work it out, from what I can see on the board, 9 and 3 should be able to do that for me. But let's work it out. We have 27. 3 goes in 27. What are we left with? We are left with 9. 9 times 3, we give 27. So if we do minus 3 plus minus 9, that should give me minus 12. So if I multiplied minus 3 times minus 9, it should give me what? Plus 27. I have plus 27 here, I have minus 12 here. So that means we have the right substitute for b. We have the right substitute for minus 12, which is the value of b. So let's clear the board and continue with what we are doing. So let's substitute the value we have. We have minus 3 and minus 9. So if we substitute that, we have 3x squared minus 3x minus 9x plus 9 equals 0. Please don't forget we are equating to 0 at this stage. From here, what do? We group this equation into 2. So if we group them into 2, what do we have in common? 3x squared minus 3x. 3x is a common factor, so we have 3x outside. If we have 3x outside, what do we have? We have x minus 1. If we multiply 3x with x, is going to give 3x squared. If we multiply 3x with minus 1, is going to give minus 3x. Between negative 9x and plus 9, what do we have in common? We have 9 in common. So we have negative 9 into x minus 1. Minus 9 times x is going to give minus 9x, which is what we have here. Then minus 9 times minus 1 is going to give plus 9. That's what we have here. Now let's come back to this side. We have 3x minus 9 outside. We have 3x minus 9. We put them in a bracket. Remember, this equals to 0. Then we have two brackets with common values. So we pick one. We have x minus 1 equals 0. So from here, I can say 3x minus 9 equals 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. To make the x standalone, firstly, we are going to transfer this 9. We are going to have 3x. When the negative sign crosses this equal sign, it turns to plus. So 3x will be equals to 9, or x equals, when this negative 1 crosses, it becomes positive 1. Now we have 3x equals 9. What are we going to do to make the x standalone? So we are going to divide through by 3. Therefore, we are going to do 3x over 3 equals 9 over 3. So we divide through by 3. So x will now equals 3 goes here 1, 3 goes here 3. X will now equals 3, or x equals 1. X equals 1. So the solution to the question given above, the solution to this question is x equals 3 or x equals 1. So this is the answer to this question. I hope that's understood. In case you don't understand it the first time, you can play it all over. In case you don't understand the steps, you can play it all over again so that you get a better understanding of it. In previous classes, we've done something like this. So in case you don't understand this, I will advise you play it all over again, or go to the previous classes where we dealt with it in detail. Example 5, we have x squared plus 5 over 4x equals 3 over 2. This is what we are asked to factorize. We are to factorize x squared plus 5 over 4x equals 3 over 2. Now, solution. If we look at this equation, we see that it is a blend of a whole number and fraction. So to make sure this equation is the form of quadratic equation, what we need to do is just to multiply this equation by 4 to get rid of all this fraction. So if we do that, we are going to have 4 times x squared plus 4 times 5 over 4x equals 4 times 3 over 2. If we do that, 4 goes here 1, 4 goes here 1. So 4 is knocked out. So 2 goes here 1, 2 goes here 2. If we come here, we have 4 times x squared is going to give 4x squared plus 5x equals 2 times 3, 6. But this is not a form of quadratic equation, we need to equate it to 0. So we are going to have 4x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. Remember, the value of our a is greater than 1. Therefore, we are going to do a times c. If we do that, what will it give us? It's going to give us 24. 24, right? So what are the two values that when added, we give plus 5, when multiplied, we give 24? Remember, in my previous explanation, I said whenever we don't know what the two values are, we should turn to AC if the value of our A is greater than 1. And if the value of our A is 1, we should turn to what? To C. Now here, the value of our A is greater than 1, so we are going to turn to AC to get those two values. Now we have 24. We are looking for two values such that when added will give us plus 5. When multiplied gives minus 24. Let's do 3. 3 goes here, that's 8. 8 times 3 we give what? 24. 3 plus 8 we give 11. But I'm not looking for 11. I'm looking for what? I'm looking for 5. So what should I do to this expression to give me 5? I'm going to do minus 3 plus 8. Minus 3 plus 8 will give me what? Plus 5. I'm going to use minus 3 plus 8 to replace this. Are you with me? So that's what I'm going to do next. Let's clear the board. So from here now, I'm going to do 4x squared plus 8x minus 3x minus 6 equals 0. So from here, I'm going to group this. I'm going to group this. I've grouped this equation into 2. So what's the common factor here in group 1? The common factor is 4x. So I'm going to put the 4x outside. So if I take out 4x from 4x squared, I'm left with x. So 4x times x will give me 4x squared. Now, if I take out 4x from 8x, what am I going to have left? I'm going to have 2. Are you with me? I'm going to have plus 2. So 4x times x is going to give me 4x squared. 4x times 2 will give me plus 8x. So I'm correct. Let's continue. So what do we have common here? This side of the bracket, what do we have common? We have minus 3 as a common factor. Minus 3. So let's put that outside. Minus 3. So if we take out minus 3 from minus 3x, I'm left with what? X. So if we take out minus 3 from minus 6, what am I left with? Just 2. This is what I mean. Minus 6 divided by minus 3. Minus cancel minus. 3 goes here 1, 3 goes here 2. So I'm left with what? Plus 2. So if we want to open the bracket, minus 3 times x is going to give me minus 3x, which we have here. Minus 3 times plus 2 is going to give me minus 6. Now, let's continue. We have 4x. We have minus 3 outside. So we have 4x minus 3. We group them together. From here, we have x plus 2, x plus 2. So we just pick one, x plus 2. Remember, we are equating our equation to 0. We are equating our equation to 0. So at this point, we are going to have 4x minus 3 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0. I want x to stand alone. Therefore, I'm going to do 4x. I'm going to transfer this minus 3, which is going to give me 3. Or x equals, once this plus 2 crosses the equal sign, is going to give minus 2. Are you with me? So I have my 4x equals 3. What will I do to make my x to stand alone? I'm going to divide through by 4. So 4x divided by 4 equals 3 divided by 4. So 4 cancel out 4. I have my x to equals 3 over 4. So from here now, I have my x to what? Equals minus 2. My x equals 3 over 4, or my x equals minus 2. So that is the solution to the question of example 5. So our x equals what? x equals 3 over 4 or x equals minus 2. Now let's look at another example. I want us to walk through as many examples as possible so that we have in-depth knowledge of this topic, especially factorization. So that's why I'm taking time to walk you through all the examples that are available to me. So let's look at example 6. What do we have? We have brackets 4y plus 2 squared equals 4y squared. What are we to do? We are to factorize this equation. So what are we going to do? We are going to solve. Remember, this is a perfect square. Before we start solving this problem, this is a perfect square. And how do we solve our perfect square? This is first term, this is second term. So our first term is 4y. You square your first term, then because it's a plus sign in the bracket, you are going to put the plus. Then twice the product of first value and the second value. So twice means 2. Product of first value and second value. First value is what? 4y times what? Second value. Then square of the second value. That's 2 square. You understand? Equals 4y squared. In case you don't get what I'm doing here, I have a class that I explain the perfect square in detail. That is day 3. So go to day 3 and go and attend that class. Go to day 3 and go and attend that class. We have in-depth knowledge of what I'm doing here. So I'm not doing something, so difficult. It's something very simple. I explain perfect square in day 3. So if you've mixed out, go to day 3, go and attend that class and come back to join this class. Now we have our first term squared. That is 4 squared is what? Is 16. Y squared is what? Y squared. So if we squared our y, we are going to have y squared. Good. 2 times 4y times 2. 2 times 4, 8 times 2. That's what? Plus 16y. Because 2 times 4y is what? 8y. 8y times 2 will give 16y. Then 2 squared is what? Is 4. Everything equals 4y squared. So at this point, what are we going to do? We are going to bring the like terms. This is 4y squared. This is 16y squared. So let's bring this to the other side. So we have 16y squared. If this 4y squared crosses the equal sign, it becomes negative. Negative 4y squared plus 16y plus 4 equals 0. So from here, what do? We subtract this minus 4y squared from 16y squared. We are left with 12y squared plus 16y plus 4 equals 0. So if we have 12y squared plus 16y plus 4 equals 0, remember the value of our a, this is a, b, c. The value of this a is greater than 1. Therefore, we are going to multiply with 4 to get our AC. So if we do that, what are we going to get? We are going to get 48. We are going to get 48. So now we are looking for two values that when added is going to give us 16. When multiplied is going to give us what? 48. So what are the two values? If we don't know the two values, I said if the value of our a is 1, if we are looking for that value, we just come to the C. Is that clear? But if the value of our A is greater than 1, then we come to our what? AC. Now let's divide our AC. We have 48. What are the products of 48? That when added we give plus 16. So let's start with 3. I know 3 will go here. So 3 goes in 4, 1. 3 goes in 18. That's 6. 2 can go in 16. That will be 8. Then 8 goes in 8. That will be 1, 1. So at this point, I have 3 times 2 times 8. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 8 is what? Is going to be 48, right? Then 6 plus 8 is going to be 14. I'm looking for, this will give me 14, but I'm not looking for 14. I'm looking for 16. So what should I do? I'm going to look for another value. Now, instead of using 3, I'm going to use 4. 3 can't give me what I want, so let me use 4. So from here, if I use 4, 4 goes here 1, 4 goes in 8, 2. So 12 times 4 is 48. 4 times 12 is 48, right? 4 plus 12 is what? 16. So I can use 12 and 4 to replace the value of my b. Let's clear the board and move forward. So we've gotten the value to replace our b, and they are 4 and 12. We need to substitute this into this equation. Let's do that. We have 12y squared plus 12y plus 4y plus 4 equals 0. What are we going to do from here? We are going to group. So we have two groups. So in the first group, what is a common factor here? What is a common factor? So the common factor we can see is 12y. So if I take out 12y from 12y squared, I'm left with y. If I take out 12y from 12y, if I divide, I'm going to get just 1. So 12y times y is going to give me 12y squared, plus 12y times 1 is going to give me 12y. Now let's go to the second bracket. What is a common factor here? What do they have in common? So from here, plus 4 is a common factor. So if I take out 4 from here, I'm left with y. Divide here by 4, I'm going to get plus 1 equals 0, right? Now, we have 12y outside, we have plus 4 outside the brackets. What are we going to do from here? We are going to group. Bring them together. 12y plus 4 in one group. We have y plus 1 here. So we just pick one. Let's remember to always equate them to what? To 0. So from here, what's the next step? So from here, my 12y plus 4 equals 0, or y plus 1 equals 0. I want the y to stand alone, so I will transfer this plus 4 to the other side. So I have my 12y equals minus 4, or I want this one to go to the other side so that my y can stand alone. So y equals negative 1. I'm not done with this side. So what will I do? I'm going to divide through by 12 to keep the y to stand alone. Therefore, I'm going to divide through by 12. So I'm going to do minus 4 over 12. So 12 goes here 1, 12 goes here 1. So we've successfully removed the 12 from the y. So our y now equals negative 4 over 12. 4 goes here 1, 4 goes here 3. So our y equals negative 1 over 3, or y equals negative 1. So this is the answer to the question above. This question, example 6. So our y equals negative 1 over 3, or y equals negative 1. So these are the answers to the question. So if we factorize this and we equate our question to 0, this is what we are going to get. Y equals negative 1 over 3, or y equals negative 1. You can follow the steps we've taken so far, and they are easy. You understand? If you don't understand it the first time, you have the opportunity to, to play the class all over again. That's why we are putting it on the platform, so that in case you don't get it the first time, you can play the class all over again. Now let's take another example. Like I told us earlier, I want us to be very familiar. I want us to have the understanding of this topic in depth, so that anytime we come across any question under quadratic equation, without sweating, without blinking of eyes, we should solve the problem. You understand? So we've done example 6. Now let's go to another example, maybe example 7. And what's example 7? Example 7 is bracket 3x minus 1 squared equals 5x squared minus 1. Solution. This is a perfect square, and we know what to do. First, term minus 1 is second term. So we squared our first term, that is 3x, square it. Because of the minus in bracket, we introduce our minus. Because of the minus here, we introduce minus twice the product of first term and second term, that is twice 3x and minus 1. Then we squared our second term. We squared this minus 1. So we are going to have plus bracket of minus 1. That is plus minus 1 squared equals what? Equals 5x squared minus 1. So let's solve this side first. 3 squared is going to give us 9. X times x is going to give us x squared minus 2 times 3x, that's minus 6x, times minus 1, that would be plus 6x, right? Minus 1 times minus 1 is going to give us 1. So we have plus 1 here, equals 5x squared minus 1. Now let's bring everything on this side to this side. You understand? And equate the whole thing to 0. Now we have 9x squared. We have 5x squared on the right hand side. So we'll bring it to the left hand side. 9x squared minus 5x squared plus 6x plus 1. If we move this minus 1 to this side, is going to be plus 1. Are you with me? Then everything equals 0. So 9x squared minus 5x squared is going to be 4x squared, right? 9x squared minus 5x squared is going to be 4x squared plus 6x. 1 plus 1 is going to be plus 2 equals 0. So this is our quadratic equation. And when you look at this quadratic equation, you can see that the value of a is what is greater than 1. Therefore, what are we going to do? We are going to multiply our a with c. Remember, this is our a, this is our b, and this is our c. So a times c is going to give us what? 8. It's going to give us what? 8. So from here now, what are we going to do? We are going to look for two values that when added will give us plus 6, when multiplied give us what? Give us 8. If we don't know the value, we can just do our a is divided by, we look for the product of ax. If we don't know what to do, we look for two products of ax that will give us plus 6 when added and plus 8 when multiplied. So let's put 8 here. What and what can go in 8? Let's start with 2. 2 goes here, 4. So 2 times 4 will give us what? 2 times 4 will give us 8. 2 plus 4 will give us what? 6. So it means we are going to use 2 plus 4 as what? As a substitute for this. Now let's go. Let's substitute 2 plus 4 for our plus 6x. From here we do 4x squared plus 4x plus 2x plus 2 equals what? 0. You know what we do? We group and we group. So 4x squared plus 4x, what do they have in common? 4x. They have 4x in common. So whatever they have in common, we'll put outside the bracket. So if I take 4x from 4x squared, I'm left with x. If I take 4x from here, I'm left with what? With just 1, plus 1. So if I multiplied everything here, I'm going to get the value here. 4x times x is going to give me 4x squared. 4x times 1 will give me plus 4x. So we're on the right track. Here we have 2x plus 2. What's the common factor? The common factor is plus 2. So if we take out 2 from 2x, we are left with x. If we take out 2 from plus 2, we are left with just what? We are left with plus 1. So I close the brackets and I equate it to 0. So if you multiply 2 by x, you get 2x. 2 multiplied by 1, you get plus 2. Now we group what is outside the bracket. What are the values outside the bracket? 4x plus 2. So we put them in one bracket. X plus 1, we group them together and we equate this to 0. Remember, we got our x plus 1 from here. We have the same value here in the first bracket, the same value in the second bracket, so we pick one. That's how we arrive at this one. Now, what are we going to do next? We are going to equate this expression and this expression to 0. We have 4x plus 2 equals 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. So we want the x to stand alone. Therefore, we have 4x equals minus 2, right? Or x equals, if one cross to the other side, it becomes negative 1. To make this x stand alone, we divide through by 4. So we have 4x divided by 4 equals negative 2 divided by 4. So 4 cancels 4. X equals negative 2 over 4, which is the same thing as 2 goes here 1, 2 goes here 2, which is the same thing as negative 1 over 2. Or x equals negative 1. The factorization of this question is what? Is x equals negative 1 over 2, or x equals negative 1. So this is the what? This is the solution to this question. So that's it about example 7. Now let's look at one or two examples before we call it a day. Let's look at example 8. So example 8 is 26t squared equals 6t raised to the power of 3 plus 8t. 26t raised to the power of 2 equals 6t raised to the power of 3 plus 8t. So what is the solution? So how are we going to solve this? Solution. First, we need to rearrange this equation. So if we have 26t squared equals 6t raised to the power of 3 plus 8t. Let's bring this 26t raised to the power of 2 to this side. So if we do that, we are going to have 6t raised to the power of 3 minus 26t raised to the power of 2 plus 8t equals 0. This is not a quadratic equation, but at least we've rearranged it to look like a quadratic equation. So from here now, we need to do something. We need to make this equation to form a quadratic equation. To do what? To form a quadratic equation. And what we can do is to divide this equation by a value or values that will make it to comply to what? To quadratic equation. So let's look through. Is there anything this expression have in common? From here we can see that 2 will go in 6, 2 will go in 26, 2 will go in 8. Also, they have t as a common value. So let's divide through by 2t. Whatever we divide with, we are going to put it outside. Are you with me? So 2t. Let's divide everything by 2t. So we put our 2t outside. So if we divide t raised to the power of 3 by t, this power will reduce to 2. This is t in 3 places. So if we take out 1 out of t in 3 places, then we are going to be left with t in 2 places. You understand? So the power will reduce to 2. The t will go here. 2 goes here 1, 2 goes here 3. So we have 3t squared, right? So this is 2t. So if we take out 1t, we are left with just t. So t cancel out t. We are left with a t. So 2 goes here 1, 2 goes here 13. We have minus 13t. Now t cancel t. 2 goes here 1, 2 goes here 4. So we have plus 4. Everything equals, 0 divided by anything is still 0. So we have our 0. This look more like a quadratic equation, right? So at this point, what do we do? Remember, the value of our a is greater than 1. This is our a, this is our b, and this is our c. So the value of our a is greater than 1. Therefore, we are going to multiply our a with c, which will give us what? 12. Now, we are looking for two values such that when we add them together, they are going to give us minus 13. When we multiply them together, they are going to give us what? Plus 12. When added, they are going to give negative 13. When multiplied, they are going to give plus 12. When added, negative 13. When multiplied, positive 12. In our previous class, I think day 1, we had something like this. So without wasting much of our time, we know that this 12 times 1, we return 12. 12 times 1, we give 12. 12 plus 1, we give what? 13. But we are not looking for 13, we are looking for minus 13. Therefore, we are going to have minus 12 plus minus 1, which will give minus 13. So we are going to use minus 12 and minus 1 to replace this value. We still have our 2t outside. 3t squared minus 12t minus t plus 4, everything equals 0. Then we group this and we group this. We still have our 2t outside. So what is a common factor in this first group? The common factor is 3t. 3t. So if I take out 3t from here, I'm left with t. So if I take out 3t from minus 12t, this is minus 12t over 3t. T cancel t. 3 goes here 1, 3 goes here 4. So I'm left with minus 4. So if I do 3t times t, it's going to give me 3t squared. 3t times minus 4 is going to give me minus 12t. Now let's come to this bracket. What do I have as a common factor? I have minus 1. So if I put minus 1 outside, I am going to have t minus 4 equals 0. Minus 1 times t is going to give me minus t. Minus 1 times minus 4 is going to give me plus 4. Are you with me? So I have my 2t outside. Everything outside the bracket, I'm going to group them. So I have my 3t minus 1. I close the bracket. Then, this first bracket and the second bracket, we have the same values. So we are going to pick just one, which is t minus 4. Everything equals 0. So from here now, I have my 2t equals 0. 3t minus 1 equals 0, or t minus 4 equals 0. To make my t stand alone, I'm going to divide through by 2. So I'm going to have 2t divided by 2 equals 0 divided by 2. 2 cancel 2. So t equals 0 divided by 2, 0. So this one is sorted out. Then this side, I'm going to have my 3t equals 1. Minus 1 crosses that side, it becomes what? 1. So to have the t to stand alone, I'm going to divide through by 3. So 3t divided by 3 equals 1 divided by 3. So 3 goes here 1, 3 cancel 3. So my t equals 1 over 3. Is that understood? Or t equals, this crosses to that side, then I have positive 4. So for this particular equation, I have t equals 0, t equals 1 over 3, and t equals 4. So these are the value of t for this expression. Remember, we factorize this and we arrive at this, and this. So these are the values of our t. Hope this is clear. Take time to watch this video maybe one or twice again. You will understand the steps we followed before we arrive at this. So now, I know we've had a long day. Let's take one more example and call it a day. And, believe you me, when it comes to quadratic equation, I have faith in you that you are not going to let me down. That's why I'm taking out time to explain everything under factorization method. Remember, we still have other methods, but I really want to break it down so that anytime you come across any question in factorization, you'll be able to solve it better than anyone else. Now let's look at example 9. Factorize 4p squared minus 3 1 over 2p plus 3 over 4 equals 0. 4p squared minus 3 1 over 2p plus 3 over 4 equals 0. So what's the solution? 4p squared minus 2 times 3 plus 1, that's 7 over 2p plus 3 over 4 equals 0. So what are we going to do? We are going to multiply this whole equation by 4. we are going to multiply this whole equation by what? By 4. In doing that, we are going to get rid of all this fraction. So that's what we want to do. Let's multiply this equation by 4. We have 4 times 4p squared minus 4 times 7 over 2p plus 4 times 3 over 4 equals 0. 4 times 4 is going to give us 16p squared. 2 goes here 1, 2 goes here 2. 2 times 7 is going to give us minus 14p plus what? 4 goes here 1, 4 goes here 1. So we are left with plus 3. Plus 3 equals 0. This is our quadratic equation. When you check the value of a, remember this is a, this is b, this is c. When you check the value of a, it's clear that it's greater than what? Than 1. Therefore, we are going to multiply 16 by 3. In doing that, what will it give us? Let's check with our calculator. 16 times 3. That's 48. So if we have 48, what are the products of 48? That when added will give us minus 14. Two products of 48 that when added will give us minus 14. When multiplied will give us 48. If we don't know what the two values are, let's divide the 48. 48. Let's do 3. 3 goes here 1. In 18, 6, right? 3. Can 3 goes in 16? No. So 2 will go in 16. I'm left with 8. So 8 should be able to go in 8. So we have 3 values. 3 times 2 times 8. 3 times 2 is 6 times 8 is what? Is 48. Now 6 plus 8. 6 plus 8 equals 14. We are looking for negative 14, not positive 14. To make this negative 14, what will I do? I'm going to do negative 6 plus negative 8, which will give me negative 14. Therefore, I'm going to replace my negative 14 here with minus 6 minus 8. With minus 6 and minus 8. So these values are my replacement. Let's clear the board. So I have 16p squared, negative 8, negative 6 is my replacement for negative 14. So I'm going to do negative 8p, negative 6p plus 3 equals 0. Then I'm going to group these together. I'm going to group these together. So in the first group, what is a common factor? The common factor is 8p. So anything that is a common factor, I put it outside the brackets. So if I take out 8p from 16p, I'm left with 2p. This is what I mean. If I divide 16p squared by 8p, p goes here. This is 2p. So 1 will go. I'm left with a p. So 8 goes here 1. 8 goes here 2. So I'm left with 2p. That's how I arrive at 2p here. Now, if I take 8p from negative 8p, I'm left with what? Just minus 1. Because 8p times minus 1 will give me minus 8p. I've resolved this side, this first group. Now I'm going to the second group. What is a common factor between negative 6p and positive 3? The common factor is negative 3. If I divide negative 6p by negative 3, negative cancel negative, 3 goes here 1, 3 goes here 2. So I'm left with 2p. If I divide negative 3 by plus 3, it's going to give me what? It's going to give me negative 1. Everything equals 0. Negative 3 times 2p is going to give me negative 6p. Negative 3 times negative 1 is going to give me plus 3. So that shows I'm on the right track, right? From here now, everything outside the bracket will group them together. So I have my 8p minus 3 in one bracket. I have 2p minus 1, 2p minus 1. So I pick just one. I have 2p minus 1. Everything equals 0. So from here now, I have my 8p minus 3 equals 0, or 2p minus 1 equals 0. I'm going to transfer this negative 3 to the other side. So I have my 8p equals plus 3 or 2p equals 1. You know, when negative crosses equal sign. I want the p to stand alone, therefore I'm going to divide it by 8. So I have my 8p divided by 8 equals 3 divided by 8. So 8 cancel 8. My p equals 3 over 8, or I want the p to stand alone, therefore I'm going to divide through by 2. So I have my 2p over 2 equals 1 over 2. So 2 cancel 2, I'm left with p equals 1 over 2. So my p equals 3 over 8 or p equals 1 over 2. So that's the answer to this question we have up here. So this question, the factorization of this question will give me p equals 3 over 8 or p equals 1 over 2. So this is the answer. With what we've done so far, you are good enough to solve any quadratic equation using factorization method. Everything you need to know from a equals 1, how to solve that. When a equals 1, how to solve that one. When a is greater than 1, difference of 2 square, perfect square, equating factorization to 0. You know, we've done virtually everything you need to know. So all I want you to do now is I want you to go back to the class, watch them over and over again till you master everything we've done. Then get your textbooks, solve as many problems as you can. Keep solving because we've laid the foundation. These are all you need to know under factorization method. These are all you need to know to solve any quadratic equation in WAEC, in JAMB, in schoolwork, in everything. So take time, practice, learn, listen, participate. You know, do everything needed to make sure you know. Everything you need to know is what we've dished out to you. So make better use of them. As you go back to school, we want you to come back in flying colors. So that's why we are laying the foundation for the resumption. So we are done with factorization method. We want to go into completing the square method, but there is one area we've not touched, which is the root of equation, under factorization. So I'm going to touch that briefly before we complete this program, or before we end this topic. I'm going to touch that briefly because it's very simple. Just 1 or 2 explanation, you will be good at solving that one. So that one will come up before we move to another topic. You understand? Let's go to another method of quadratic equation, which is completing the square. Completing the square is one of the fantastic methods that you cannot afford to miss. The class on completing the square is one class you cannot afford to miss. So look forward to it. That's what we are doing next. Thank you for staying true to this time. I so much appreciate it, and I know you will be better off for doing that. Thank you. See you in the next class.